What's up everybody, Maran here for another weekly update. So there's so much exciting news to cover here this week. It's just like one thing after another. It all happened in the same week here, and especially if you're a fan of 90s JDM stuff especially, I mean, this week was like Christmas times 10. I mean, it was just an awesomeness overload. I'm so excited. This is arguably probably one of the most exciting weekly updates I've ever done. I've been covering car news here for probably over a decade at this point, and I don't know if there's been a week that's had more exciting, promising stuff in it all in one week. It was, man, the Japan Mobility Show. This is the first one technically of the Tokyo Auto Show that's now been rebranded. That it did not disappoint. So many awesome debuts here. And before I get into all the news here, I first want to mention, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel here so that you won't miss any updates on all these new cars if or when they become a reality. We'll see what happens because most of them are just concepts here, although some are more production ready than others. I also want to mention very briefly, I will be doing my usual weekly live stream here on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So join if you can. It's always a great time hanging out, talking cars with all of you, answering your questions, and it'll be really fun to kind of chat live in real time, you know, about all these new concepts and what you think about them as well. So join if you can. But anyway, the first concept here I'll start with is the one that is most production ready and the one you'll most likely be able to buy the soonest, and that is the Honda Prelude has made a return, which is just really unexpected, honestly. You know, we heard about how Honda was going to be doing some type of 75th birthday present to themselves here, and, you know, a lot of us were expecting some kind of electric S2000 successor or something like that, and this is definitely not the same thing that was shown under the silhouette sheet that we saw about a year or so ago, but I'm not complaining because this is very exciting. And yes, it is technically a concept and the interior isn't ready to be shown off yet either, but otherwise this is pretty much the most production-ready concept I've seen in a long time. It even has realistic side mirrors and wheels already, and it even has things that past near-production concepts from Honda haven't had. And I think it looks great too, although many pointed out that it is very similar to what a coupe version of the Toyota Prius could look like, and if you swap the Honda badges for Toyota ones and told me this was a Celica, I would totally believe you. But, you know, it's maybe not the most distinctive styling. I don't really see any throwbacks to an old Prelude necessarily here, but I still think it's a cool-looking coupe nonetheless. And another similarity it's going to be sharing with the Prius here is that it's going to have a hybrid powertrain, Honda confirmed. Previously it was thought this would be electric, but Honda US actually confirmed that this is a hybrid powertrain this vehicle will have. They didn't say what hybrid powertrain it's going to have or anything, but that is also good news for those that were expecting some type of electric thing, especially if you're a fan of combustion engines. You get a cool coupe here that isn't electric, so I'm sure that'll be exciting for a lot of people as well. And true to the Prelude name, it seems to be front-wheel drive, but nothing beyond the confirmation of that hybrid powertrain has been revealed about the mechanicals yet, so everything else is up in the air. The conservative bet is that this is going to get the same hybrid powertrain that we see in the Accord and the CR-V currently, and is coming next year to the Civic, where you just get the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder and dual motor setup that does 204 horsepower and 247 pound-feet of torque. And while that would be fine, and just having a two-door at all is a gift, because, you know, Honda had said, oh, well, we can't do a two-door Civic anymore because no one buys them, might have been a half-truth. Maybe it was just that they were, you know, saying, hey, why don't we just split it off and do a unique thing? And, you know, so we will see what ends up happening, you know, again, whether this actually comes to production or not. But it makes sense now why we didn't get a Civic Coupe, and it also makes sense why the Integra is 4 doors. And I will say that, you know, this is a Honda, but this also potentially opens up the door to some type of 2-door Integra if they wanted to market it as that, or they could even use another name, call it the Legend or something. I could let my imagination run wild all day, but, you know, there's some potential there for that too. Honda often shares with Acura, you know, so we will see what happens there. But I think that would certainly help spread out the development costs. If you can have one for both brands, then it's not all on the shoulders of one car. So we'll see. I mean, that is complete conjecture on my end, but I think that makes a lot of sense. And also, if it is front-wheel drive, then as far as powertrains goes, obviously it's hybrid, but, you know, they could also open up and do a Type R version of this, and then do an Integra Type R that's a 2-door that everyone's been wanting and all that. Again, my imagination can keep going all day. But anyway, officially, Honda's CEO says the word Prelude means an introductory or preceding performance, and also said that this model will become the prelude for our future models, which will inherit the joy of driving into the full-fledged electrified future and embody Honda's unalterable sports mindset. So to me, that statement actually suggests that we could be seeing a new powertrain under the hood of this thing. If they're talking about, this leading them into the future and this being like, the first of other things to come, that tells me that there's got to be something new here. And this isn't just, a coupe hybrid thing and that's it, So we'll have to see. I think one other thing, again, letting my imagination run a little bit, you were seeing all these other companies downsizing and using, turbo 4-cylinders in place of V6s. Honda doesn't have anything like that, really. They have the hybrid thing. That's the next most powerful thing, but they kind of got rid of the 2.0 turbo motor, and most of the other Honda stuff. And so, where do they go as far as a V6 replacement for eventually the Pilot, the Ridgeline? They're probably not going to last with a V6 forever. Maybe there's some type of boosted up, kind of hybrid setup, maybe an extra electric motor or a turbo hybrid thing or something. I have no clue. But, the fact that it sounds like they're going to be introducing some type of next generation hybrid technology in this is also promising, and also suggests that we could be seeing something that does have a good bit more punch here and, elevates this beyond just Civic Si performance or something like that. So we shall see, but all very exciting stuff here. And so, again, because it is so close to production, I'm guessing we'll hear something sooner rather than later. I doubt it'll be as soon as the LA Auto Show next month, but, we could see something here next year, potentially, based on how ready this looks once again. But I mean, I wasn't really expecting a Prelude to come back, but I am certainly not complaining, and this is awesome. I just makes me, nostalgic for all the 90s and 2000s, front-wheel drive sport coupes and stuff that are basically, non-existent these days. It's so great to see one of these make a return, potentially, but very exciting to see that. And Mazda RX-7 fans had a very good week as well here with their lifelong dreams of a new FD RX-7 partially coming to reality here this week, with Mazda revealing the iconic SP Concept. And while this one looks a little bit more concept-y, this one also seems fairly realistic. Obviously, there's a lot to be done here for a production version, but even like the awesome pop-up headlights, I think could have potential to actually come here, in a production version. And I really hope they do, because they look awesome. It's about 10 inches longer than an ND Miata, putting it pretty close to the FD RX-7 size, which also is commendable with everything ballooning in size these days. I figured it'd be, way bigger than an FD RX-7, but this is actually sticking to those dimensions. And I mean, I guess I should expect that out of Mazda. They're, one of the few that's actually managed to keep their sports car the same size as the original, basically. So this is on brand for them, but just really a nice surprise. And I think it looks fantastic outside and inside here with a cool, but again, fairly realistic looking cockpit that's even left-hand drive, which is a surprise for a Japanese brand showing off a car at a Japanese car show. So that could even give us a hint that, like, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, the US will get this as well, maybe. I mean, who knows why they made it left-hand drive, but that's an interesting, choice there. And unfortunately, the interior only shows off an automatic transmission, but the shifter is pretty cool. It's kind of like the Ferrari ones with the fake gated thing there. And there's a reason why it's going to be automatic only here, and that's because Mazda gave us some powertrain details, which also is something you usually don't get on concept cars, at least as far as realistic, detailed powertrain stuff, unless it's something that's probably going to come to production. So this is another reason why I think this actually has a decent chance of, actually being made. And anyway, so they confirmed it's a twin rotor hybrid, so it'll even have a rotary engine here like the old RX-7s. But for those who are traditionalists, you'll have to get out your sad trombone sound effect here, because it appears that much like the MX-30, the rotors are only going to be a generator for the electric motor or motors. They didn't specify how many motors it has, but that is most likely what's going on here. And again, they've already proven that with the MX-30, so I think that's kind of going to be the way they're going to keep using rotaries. And I think it's a smart choice, because rotaries are very small and compact, and so they make great generators, and they can run at a consistent speed and all that. So I think it's actually a pretty smart, usage case for them. And, aside from the fuel consumption component, but I think hopefully they've improved that as well. But anyway, thankfully this setup's going to be much punchier than the MX-30 setup, with Mazda already claiming 364 horsepower for something that's 10 inches bigger than a Miata. That's going to be plenty of a handful and should be awesome. They didn't specify anything else, but that sounds like an all-wheel drive setup, unless Mazda's got some real punchy electric motors in the works. But otherwise, that to me sounds like it'd be more easily accomplished with two of like the MX-30 motors, one on each axle or something like that, because I believe that's rear-wheel drive, if I remember correctly, or front-wheel drive, but putting two of those together, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. They could be doing something totally different or not at all, we'll see. But anyway, whatever it's working with though, it doesn't weigh very much. So it's, again, my leaning would be one very strong rear motor, because this thing only weighs 3,197 pounds. And again, because it has the rotary hybrid thing, it doesn't have to be weighed down by big heavy batteries, but that still, even for a hybrid system that has electric stuff, electric motors, and rotary engines, you know, to be 3,200 pounds is really commendable, even for a vehicle that's only 10 inches bigger than a Miata. But still, Mazda also says it has perfect 50-50 weight distribution, and they haven't said anything about the production prospects officially. And, you know, typically I dismiss something like this as a fantasy, but considering they've done this kind of a powertrain already in the MX-30, so that's familiar territory, and the fact that Mazda, against all odds and all reason to be totally honest, has pushed through here in the 2020s a turbo inline-six engine that's brand new, they've never made before, on a brand new rear-wheel drive based platform, from, you know, a smaller, you know, just standalone company. They didn't have a partnership to help them out. They just somehow were able to make a business case for it. If they can do that, I have faith that Mazda can greenlight anything. You know, and so, you know, if it was another company that was a little more rational, I'd say sure. But with the way Mazda is being so bold and willing to take chances, it seems, with development costs, you know, I think this actually has a better chance than the average concept car, sports car from any other company. I think it's really, you know, there's some potential here. We will see. Maybe I'm just doing wishful thinking here, but let me know what you think about it in the comments below and your thoughts on the production prospects. But I feel like this is something they could actually, you know, come out with. We'll see. Toyota MR2 fans also had a fantastic week. Again, basically anyone who's a fan of any kind of JDM sports car from the 90s or 80s is having a good week here. So this is the Toyota FT SE concept that they debuted here. And now that we can see the whole thing, the mid-engine proportions are unmistakable. This is not a Supra thing. This is not anything else. This is clearly an MR2 revival. Whether they call it that or not, you know, remains to be seen. You know, it only has GR badging on the back and it's not named MR2 or anything. You know, so we will see how they choose to brand it. I think it should be, you know, called the MR2, but we will see again what they end up wanting to do with it. But regardless, I think it just looks awesome here. So cool looking. And I think this one also, even though it does have some concept car flair, I don't think this is wildly, you know, concept-y either. This is something that with a few little tweaks, I think would be basically production ready. The inside might need a little more work, but the outside, you know, I think is pretty close there already. And all Toyota is saying officially is that the powertrain is going to be electric, but in an interview that Patrick George of Motor One did with its designer, they shared that it'll have the same battery pack that's being shared with the Lexus LF ZC concept, which I'll get to here in a few minutes. That was another one that debuted. And furthermore, he even told them that we're going to release the Lexus model in 2026 and this one afterward. We can't guarantee the year itself, but as soon as possible. After 2026 is what I can tell you. So he basically just said, yes, we are making this. It isn't just some far-fledged concept. They are bringing back a mid-engine proportioned electric vehicle, essentially bringing back a new MR2. Huge, mind-blowing, like stuff we've been dreaming about for years, 2 decades basically, and it's happening. And we know it's going to be happening sometime, you know, 2027, maybe 2028. That is huge. I'm so pumped, and you know, it continues to be awesome that, you know, Toyota has now a GR86, GR Corolla, Supra. We'll see, you know, how many of those stick around, but those plus you now are going to have some type of MR2 mid-engine thing. They say they want it to kind of be a new Boxster and Cayman competitor, because we know that that's going to be electric here and coming in a couple of years. But I'm really excited. Hopefully they stick to that plan of having it come out sometime after 2026 as soon as possible. Music to my ears. So excited. Again, any of these sports cars are gifts in my opinion, and so just awesome to see that, and super exciting there. And I'm telling you what, even Nissan turned it around this week. After revealing a bunch of far-fetched, unrealistic concepts here over the past couple of weeks leading up to the Japan Mobility Show, and those all were shown at the show, they redeemed themselves here this week, and they saved the best for last. It's called the Hyperforce Concept, and while this one is very concept-y, definitely more far-fetched than the others, it seems a bit closer of a hint of what we can expect from a future production car than the other Nissan concepts. And of course, this one clearly is hinting at the GTR. Even the badging for Hyperforce is the same kind of font and style as GTR. So clearly, there's no mistaking that's what we're looking at here. So after years of rumors, it's great to see that Nissan is at least considering, something like this, and they have an idea roughly about design direction and powertrain here. So styling wise, while it's certainly bold and out there, and amazingly it seems like Nissan's design team were the only people on earth that were inspired by the Tesla Cybertruck and thought it was a great idea to use that inspiration for their car. I think most people don't love this styling. Clearly, it's really far-fetched, and I'm sure they will tone it down. But I think, look through all the crazy BS, and you will see you have horizontal headlights again. Them going back to an R34 style headlight, which will be cool. We have, very retro futuristic taillights in the back that are still the signature round tail lamps, thankfully, which is great. And, the interior has graphics done by Polyphony Digital again, just like all the past GTRs. And so, all really exciting stuff here. Now, mechanically, Nissan says it'll use a solid-state battery and multiple electric motors for over 1,300 horsepower and all-wheel drive, of course. And while we'll have to wait and see if Nissan can, put motors that powerful into a car, I don't think they have anything currently that can do that much power, but also whether or not they can bring a solid state battery to market by 2026. But that is their plan, by the way. Their plan all along, they've been saying 2026 for their solid state batteries, or at least the reports have been saying that. So this lines up potentially, if we're seeing this now at the end of 2023, and you give them 2 or 3 years potentially, we could see some type of GTR that is using this. And I think what better vehicle to have as a test bed for your super high performance batteries that are most likely going to be a little bit expensive to start and all that. And to have all of that, starting off here in this car makes the most sense out of anything, because it's going to be the most expensive Nissan anyway and all that. It's just, to me, it all kind of, the pieces of the puzzle are slowly falling into place here. So, I mean, we will see. The other thing I'll say is, especially the Japanese sports car companies, they really take a long time to develop these sports cars. So honestly, 2026 might be too soon unless we start seeing test mules like next year. Otherwise, you might be waiting a few years. I feel like usually with other stuff in the past, we've seen stuff in camo for 2 or 3 years at least before it's actually finally ready for public consumption. So we will see. But anyway, we finally have some info potentially of what Nissan's thinking for the next GTR officially, and that's fantastic, and I think it'll be great, and very excited to see that. And Subaru, that being their odd selves at the show here, they showed off first off an aircraft called the Air Mobility Concept, which seems like a waste. Like, why spend all this money on this stuff? Anyway, there's that, and then also the Sports Mobility Concept, which is the more realistic of the two, and shows that even with a 2-door sports car, Subaru is obsessed with making it rugged. So buckle up. I think this is going to be the inevitable way of the future for everything with Subaru. But anyway, so the styling's a bit odd, but I don't think it's too bad. I think a lot of it looks like a hyper-modern SVX, from the canopy there to the lights that are, very slender, horizontal, both for the front and the back. That is clearly SVX. And Subaru says it's just a show car, and they're just saying it's electric. But, maybe this could be an idea if the partnership does come to an end with Toyota for BRZ and GR86. If Subaru were to do their own 2-door coupe, I don't know why they would even continue to do that, but if they were to do something like that, how would Subaru do it? Probably an SVX type thing, that's lifted and rugged, of course. And then, the electric thing also makes sense here, again, if we're talking about down the road in the future here. So, it'd be cool to see something like this with a WX motor under the hood, but and lowered and not rugged. But hey, it's on brand for them. I guess I gotta respect them for sticking to their guns. But I'm certainly not as excited about this as I am about the other stuff. But again, coupes are always a gift, and so if this makes it a production, it'll be a gift. It'll be great to see, regardless of what they do with it or how they style it. But yeah, be happy to see it all the same. And so anyway, great to see that concept there. But back to Toyota here. Lots of other very promising concepts here. First off, they revealed the EPU, which I think stands for electric pickup, which is our first official look at what is likely their Maverick competitor that we've heard rumors about that, it's clearly probably been on a fast track because this is a super hot segment right now. And it looks pretty close to being production ready as well, even being shown in left-hand drive here, which again, to me is a pretty strong hint that, hey, this is coming to North America, be on the lookout. So we will see about all that, but it's clear, though, that the Maverick was the target for this because this truck is almost exactly the same length as a Maverick, although it is slightly lower and slightly wider and has a nearly 10-inch longer wheelbase, which will hopefully mean more interior space than the Maverick as well. And unlike the Maverick, though, this is electric, so abandon all hope of this being Maverick priced, but hopefully they do a good job of keeping the price down on it, especially if they can do some part sharing, maybe use the BZ4X powertrain to hopefully, do something pretty low cost, but it's still, there's no way they're going to hit anything in the 20s, I don't think. I'd like to be wrong. We will see, but, still, Hyundai has the more expensive Santa Cruz that they still, sell pretty well. So, we will see what ends up happening. But, great to see another small truck. It's refreshing with everything else being gigantic around here. Really nice. Dump all the small trucks into the market that you can. I think that would be great for the few people that are open to that alternative. But clearly, the Maverick has shown that there is some demand there. So hopefully this arrives sooner rather than later, but very interesting to see that. Toyota has also revealed here the Land Cruiser SE concept, which appears to share basically nothing with other Land Cruisers, even the brand new one. This one is unibody, electric, and doesn't look off-road ready at all. So it even has 3 rows of seats, surprisingly, even though the area behind the seat pillar there doesn't look large or hospitable at all, but, we'll see. Regardless, as other brands have shown us, though, brand heritage as far as names goes is, not something anyone really sticks to anymore. And, if putting the Land Cruiser badge or, their talk of making this a whole sub-brand, if that helps them to sell these and give it some appeal and edge, what can you do? It's one of those things. I wish they could come up with a new name. It's, there's plenty of awesome names they could have attached to something like this instead, but it is what it is, and we'll see if this one comes to production or not. My guess, though, is that it probably will, but we'll have to wait and see. The last Toyota concept here that they showed off is the FT3E, which could preview a BZ3X potentially if they decide to still keep using that name structure. But anyway, it definitely is a change in design direction from other Toyotas here. And aside from being an electric vehicle and using the same battery as the sports car concept, there's not much info on this one either, aside from its cool concept car, tricks that you see there. But another promising thing. Also, I think it's just meant to show off, again, that new design direction for Toyota, which I think is pretty sharp. And looking forward to, seeing how that develops here. But moving on to the Lexus concepts that I alluded to earlier, Lexus debuted the LFZC concept and the LFZL concepts. So first, the LFZC does not roll off the tongue, but that will come to production with a different name, thankfully, in 2026, like the GR designer mentioned. So it'll use the direct 4 all-wheel drive tech first seen in the RZ, but whether it'll have more power, remains to be seen. But Lexus says their goal is to double the range of the average EV currently available thanks to their new prismatic batteries, which I think suggests that this car will be the one to introduce those batteries as well, since I think 2026 is when they're planning to introduce those new batteries. So, those batteries, if you missed that whole report, they're claiming over 600 miles of range out of these batteries and lower recharge times, faster recharge times than what you're seeing with current EVs, which would really be a game changer and really, really huge. And they're also working on solid state stuff as well. So, but anyway, that's all we know about this sedan for now, but it's cool that Lexus is making a new sedan. Again, sedans are also not very common, these days. Everyone's running the crossovers. So having a new sedan and a performance electric sedan from Lexus is a gift as well. I'm excited for it. And that's great. There's also been no commitments made about the LFZL. And there's not really any other info about it other than it being on a new EV architecture with gigacast casting. So this is going to be the first product, I guess, of what basically Toyota was blown away by the gigacasting from Tesla. And basically just, it seems like they reverse engineered a Tesla as far as the structure, at least, because they were so impressed with the simplicity and how many parts they reduced off the Tesla, and so they're learning from that vehicle and, you know, trying to incorporate that into their new thing here. So supposedly this will be the first to get that. So I mean, that means that, you know, this will probably be coming after 2026 at some point. We will see when, but you know, that'll be pretty huge once that arrives. And it has some futuristic tricks on the inside as well. Supposedly, one of them is called an interactive reality in motion, which, for example, can, in theory, identify things outside when you point at them through the from the window there, and it'll give you info about what you just saw when you passed by. So, you know, cool stuff. We'll see again if any of this actually makes it a production. That's why I don't really bother going into all the, you know, space age tech and all these things, because it's all just, you know, usually pipe dreams. But that'd be cool. And this likely previews, you know, realistically just a higher end Lexus SUV that'll slot above the RZ, and we know that stuff like this is going to come eventually. So whether it's this or something else later, you know, it's inevitable. You know, they're going to have electric vehicles in the entire lineup, you know, at every stage. And so kind of cool to at least see the design direction potentially for that. And so, yeah, but very promising, especially that sedan. I'm very excited for that one. And the last vehicle to cover here from the Japan Mobility Show is another cool preview of a cool electric sedan. This one is from Infiniti, and it's called the Vision QE. And it looks really striking here, especially in the back. And Infiniti does say it'll be a performance vehicle with an engaging all-electric drive. But honestly, even if they put the Ariya's existing 389 horsepower setup in a sedan, that would be pretty engaging in my opinion. I mean, the Ariya, you know, obviously it's set up to be a softer SUV, but that same punch in a sedan, you know, as long as it's not insanely huge and heavy, could still be, you know, plenty of fun. But anyway, this will be their first EV, and I believe prior info suggested a 2026 debut for this based on production timelines for factories and stuff. But anyway, Infiniti didn't say anything officially about the launch of this, but they did also tease 3 other models here, confirming that before the sedan arrives, next year we'll first see a QX80 that's inspired by the QX monograph concept that they showed a few months ago, and then a QX65 based on the QX60, but with a more coupe-like shape there, will also be debuting next year. After that sedan, an electric crossover way in the back there will also debut that seems like it's going to share some styling with that sedan. And good to see those updates from Infiniti. And despite tons of Toyota debuts already in Japan this week, Toyota North America decided to also put out a teaser for their own upcoming debut here for America specifically, which matches up almost exactly with the Crown Estate concept that was shown in Japan last year, meaning we're likely to see the production version of that here in the US soon. So Toyota officially so far is only saying, with all-wheel drive, this hybrid electric mid-sized SUV goes beyond what's expected. See you soon. And so we can clearly see the hybrid badge, so expect at least one hybrid powertrain, although I'm sure it'll probably just have the same powertrains as the regular Crown, which are both hybrid, meaning either the regular hybrid or the hybrid max set up there. And also they, you know, call out that it's a mid-sized SUV. So for everyone that was disappointed the Venza wasn't just a shortened Highlander, here you go. Supposedly this thing, at least the concept from Japan last year, was just a few inches shorter than a Highlander. Obviously probably 2 rows and, you know, just a little more luxurious and stuff. But, you know, this is actually like a proper mid-size large SUV from Toyota finally, which is a gap they have had in their lineup really, unless you want to go up to the off-road stuff. You know, so I think that this certainly has a spot in the lineup, makes a lot of sense. And, you know, as long as they price it right, I think it'll be a big hit. So we'll see about that. And there's no info on when this one will also debut, but considering we just had the Camry teaser last week, and, you know, if they want to do an auto show, LA is the only one this year that's left. So, you know, it's either going to probably come around the same time as the Camry, or, you know, maybe they'll just do something online and avoid the auto shows altogether. We'll see. But anyway, interesting to see that. Now, moving on from the Japanese brands here, we also have a debut from Kia here this week. They revealed the refreshed K5 in Korea, which is a nice evolution here with, you know, the headlights kind of evolving from the ones we've seen currently in the front there, and there's more dramatic taillights there in the back. Inside, it also gets a curved dual-screen setup, a rotary shifter, and the new HVAC controls we've seen from other Kias recently as well. And at least in Korea, it'll also be available with a head-up display. We will see if we get that here. My guess is no, but it's still cool they're offering it there. The powertrain offerings are different for Korea as well, so we'll have to wait for the US version to see, you know, what's available here. But my guess is that we're probably going to get carryover powertrains, you know, and that's probably the safe bet. You know, the Sonata offered the 1.6, which got dropped. You know, but I don't think that's available in the K5, so I'm pretty sure it'll just be carryover stuff here. We'll see. But anyway, it's being labeled a 2025 model in Korea, so chances are that's what it'll be here in the States. So I wouldn't expect it to show up in the US until the spring at the earliest of next year, but we'll have to wait and see. Interesting though to see that. I think it's a nice improvement for sure. Mercedes this week, they had a real head scratcher here. This is the first I've seen of someone doing this. They picked, out of all the weeks, again, with all the news, they picked this week to talk about a car that won't arrive until the 2026 model year. We have just started the 2024 model year, and we're not even in 2024 yet. And we're talking about 2026 stuff this week with all this other news. Like, why, Mercedes? But anyway, it's also pretty underwhelming because it appears that even 2 years from now, the Mercedes GLE will still continue to look the same, even though it'll be about 6 or 7 years old for this generation at that point, and it'll even be sticking with the same old horizontal infotainment setup. I thought maybe they'd slap in the big tablet thing that you see, you know, the vertical oriented thing you see in all the newer stuff, but apparently not a whole lot coming on the horizon for the GLE here. So if you're thinking about buying one, you know, you don't have to worry about getting burned by a new version anytime soon. But this is the 2026 Mercedes-AMG GLE 53 Hybrid. So thankfully it does continue to use a turbo inline-6 engine from the current 53, but does get a few improvements that give it 14 more horsepower on its own for 443 horsepower. But on top of that, it now gets a 134 horsepower electric motor, in 2026, I shouldn't say now, in 2026, that will bump the power to 536 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque and drop the 0 to 60 time to just 4.6 seconds, which is, I mean, that whole hybrid, you know, motor is just a huge boost in power that you didn't have before. Really elevates the 53, you know, with a lot more performance than before. The trade-off, though, is it's going to be a lot heavier here, of course, with that, you know, powering that electric motor is going to be a pretty large 31.2 kilowatt-hour battery. For a plug-in hybrid, that is big, and it should enable about 50 miles of range at least. It might even be a little bit more. We'll see. Mercedes hasn't given any kind of official estimates yet because why would they? It's not coming for another 2 years at least. It'll also do even 60 kilowatt DC fast charging if you really want to make a lot of usage out of that battery, although people won't love you hogging a DC fast charger with a 60 kilowatt charge rate. But anyway, you can do that if you want. And to compensate for the extra weight, of course, it gets a reworked suspension and software as well, of course, there. And there's no pricing yet, of course, either, because who knows, you know, what things will be priced like by 2026. But I guess it's cool that Mercedes is being so upfront about future product with us. Like everyone else, they're like most other companies, you know, they would never tell you what's coming in 2026, you know, at least as far as production stuff goes. And they're right here being like, hey, here's what we got. Here's all the specs. See you in 2 or 3 years. We'll see. So anyway, interesting to see that one. For another thing that I'll just briefly mention, Ferrari revealed yet another one of their one-off commission cars, and this one is called the SP-8. Surprisingly, it's based on the old F8 Spider. I guess it just takes a while to build these, but the F8's not even in production anymore. But it takes an F8 Spider, puts unique bodywork on it, and hacks off the roof. There's not even a removable roof. There is no roof whatsoever for this thing. And I mean, it looks cool. You know, who knows how much it costs to make, but cool for that very lucky owner, which I believe they said was from Taiwan. And Bloomberg this week broke the pretty big news that Honda has canceled their partnership to build affordable cars together with General Motors. So they had last year announced a plan to team up to try and get more affordable EVs out there. And so Honda said here this week that after conducting some research and analysis, both parties decided to end the development. And they also added that after studying this for a year, we decided that this would be difficult as a business. So at the moment, we are ending development of an affordable EV. But they did add that each company will continue to work towards offering affordable models to the EV market. So I'm sure the slowdown in EV demand didn't help either, although I think a lot of that slowdown is because they're just really expensive and people don't have the money to be blowing on, you know, expensive EVs right now as well. But, you know, the only thing to mention as well is this isn't going to be affecting the Prologue and the ZDX because that is a different partnership. GM and Honda are hooked up. They have a bunch of different partnerships for all kinds of stuff, hydrogen, batteries. I think there's a bunch of things. And so the Prologue ZDX thing is still happening. Obviously, it's still that's still a partnership that is continuing to happen for a few years here at least. But as far as anything cheaper or more affordable, that is dead. So interesting to hear that. I wish Honda would have given us an update on what's going on with the Sony thing. I haven't heard anything about that. Maybe someone that's at the show will ask about that and we'll hear about it later. But, you know, I'm curious if that's still, you know, a thing or not. But anyway, interesting to hear about the GM thing. Speaking of affordable GM EVs, though, during GM's earnings call this week, in addition to delaying basically all of their upcoming EVs by varying degrees from anywhere from early 2024 for some of them back to I think 2025 for the Sierra EV, I believe, or yeah, for the GMC one. But regardless, GM CEO also revealed that they have now ditched their earlier plan to build an all-new Bolt. I covered that a few months back, and they're also abandoning the idea of doing other entry-level EVs and are instead now leveraging the best attributes of today's Bolt EUV as well as Ultium, our latest software, and NACS. And they also she added that this reworked Bolt will deliver an even better driving, charging, and ownership experience with a vehicle we know customers love. She also revealed that it will use a lithium iron phosphate battery in order to deliver significantly cost-improved battery packs using purchased LFP cells, getting to market at least 2 years faster, and our unit cost will be substantially lower. So there's no release date given for that, but it'll just be 2 years sooner than I guess what we were currently going to be getting. You know, they also, you know, the fact they've mentioned the NACS incorporation means 2025 is when they've announced they'll be switching their ports over. So don't expect a new Bolt before 2025. And the other thing is, you know, the LFP batteries, while they're better from, you know, a mining standpoint and, you know, from a cost standpoint being cheaper, they're not very power dense. So don't expect any kind of range improvements. Potentially range could even slightly decrease. Hopefully they wouldn't do that. We'll see. But this, you know, at least will help because they're cheaper batteries. This will hopefully help keep the Bolt truly affordable, which is, I think, the bottom line right now. I think that's the huge appeal of the Bolt. That's why they're selling like crazy, because after the tax credit and stuff, I mean, you're well into, you know, the mid to low 20s for these Bolts, and that's really appealing for people. Just, you know, even just because it's a really nice car, regardless of the electric powertrain. I covered all that in my Bolt EUV review earlier this year, if you're curious. But, you know, I think that's one of the greatest strengths of the Bolt is keeping it cheap. And so keeping it cheap, I think, is the right direction. This makes a lot of sense. Now, the Equinox EV is still coming. That was one of the ones that got delayed here during this earnings call, but I believe they said still sometime in early 2024 instead of the end of 2023 here. For that one, we'll see if GM can actually start building these Ultium EVs at a rate, you know, faster than, you know, a few dozen a week, you know, but hopefully they can actually, you know, churn out some stuff pretty soon with the Equinox EV as well, which is supposed to still be affordable and be a great option as well for people who want something other than a Bolt at that price point. Hopefully that'll come still here soon. But anyway, I think that's actually great news about the Bolt, and you know, it means that hopefully there won't be a huge gap in an affordable EV from GM, you know, for as long as they were planning originally. So that's good to hear. And so anyway, the last little thing I want to mention here, I just want to thank all of you that are members of the Maran Motoring Club. So we did have a few new members join here this week. And so one of them actually was gifted a membership thanks to Kyle's very generous gifting during the live stream here that he often does. And so that allowed 4 others to also rejoin. But I wanted to give a big welcome here to the new member, Brian Gasser. And a special thanks also to Bandos Z32 and Brothers on Wheels for both signing up for memberships as well. I really appreciate the support from all of you. I hope you're enjoying the membership perks so far. And I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to chat with some of you here in the live stream here on Sunday, where those members do get priority answering, and hopefully I can chat more with you then. For anyone else who would like to join and become a member and get that priority answering and all the other perks that come along with being a member, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and there's also a link in the description. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Once again, please like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.